Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Um, I'll be speaking on the platform of Hammer Home the Glucose. By the way, my name is Mokoro Joaquin Chidozie. I'm a certified diabetes educator. I will be talking about different forms of diabetes as we go along. Um, our education will be run under the platform of Hammer Home the Glucose. Hammer Home the Glucose is the name of the NGO. What it simply means is hammer home, push in the glucose, send it into the cells, make it to leave the peripheral blood into the cells. That is where the impact will be felt. So that's the meaning of hammer home the glucose. Whether you're hammering the glucose through exercise, through taking your medications, and through also curtailing and monitoring what you're eating. The bottom line is to make sure that you don't overeat. The bottom line is to make sure that you don't have excess glucose in your blood level. Predominantly, we have more than 90% of people with type 2 diabetes around the world. Unfortunately, there are um, about 10% or maybe less than 10% of people with other diabetes, including type 1 and gestational diabetes. People with type 2 diabetes, unfortunately, I have to mention also people with pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is something, well, the havoc it causes is like those who are suffering from type 2, depending on at what level of pre-diabetes you are. But as time goes on, we will continue to speak about the pre-diabetic state and type 2 diabetes, and even those with gestational. Gestational diabetes are those who notice that they are diabetic for the first time during pregnancy. The onset begins at pregnancy. Those people have, a choice of either to allow them to become full-blown diabetic patients, or they will stop the diabetes from progressing to type 2. The choice is yours. For those who are type 2 diabetes, which is mainly what I'll be concentrating on as we progress along, we need to ask ourselves a few questions about type 2 diabetes. How did we arrive there? Is it caused by gene? Is it caused by our lifestyle? How did it come? We need to ask these few questions. And as we dwell into this, the reason will be clearer to us. But again, it's important for all of us to know that if you are coming from a family where father or mom is diabetic, you have the chances of becoming diabetic. Where uncle or auntie is diabetic, you also stand the chance of being diabetic. Now, if your father has suffered from diabetes or your mom, do you wait until you are pronounced diabetic before you now act? No. There is a legitimate concern that you must from time to time check yourself. You must from time to time, try to diagnose yourself by asking yourself few questions. Are you urinating frequently? Are you feeling hungry after eating? Are you having any weight loss? Unknown weight loss? You don't know how it started? And few other things you need to ask yourself. If you start noticing all these things, there is a cause for concern. You need to find out more. You need to ask yourself, what's the problem? You need to go to a pharmacist or any clinic and check your blood sugar. The earlier you detect that you are diabetic, the better for you. The reason being that people can be diabetic, especially those with type 2, for almost 5 years without knowing that they are diabetic. Because even some of the things they are going through, they'll not be able to explain it. The only time it becomes an emergency is when you go into, especially those who are suffering from type 2 diabetes, you go into non-ketotic, hyperosmolar, hyperglycemic state. That's the only time you feel. By then, it's an emergency. And then you'll be taken to the hospital. And then after a couple of tests, they will realize that you are diabetic for some time. Even those who are the type 1 group, it is true that they can be diabetic for some time also, until they come to a heightened state where the sugar has become too much in the peripheral blood, and they suffer from a condition known as diabetic ketoacidosis. Another condition that is a problem. It's also an emergency situation. So if you are coming from a background where your mom or dad is diabetic, the implication is that you are genetically predisposed to be diabetic. There's need for you to continue to check. There is need for you to avoid fizzy drinks, sugary stuff. There's need for you to do those. And then drink more water than drinking anything that will bring a lot of sugar into your system. Even if your parents do not have diabetes and you live a very reckless lifestyle, eating and drinking uncontrollably, doing all sorts of things, smoking, chances are that you may, through your lifestyle, induce diabetes into your system. Under such instance, you also check yourself. You also ask yourself, what type of life am I living? What type of thing am I doing? Because without you eat, you're suffering your system, especially the liver and the kidney. They suffer so much. And that is why people who are suffering from diabetes, it affects all the major organs of the body. Anything you know that is organ in your body is where diabetes touches. Diabetes is a friend to nobody. Diabetes is one disease that is accompanied by other 10 diseases. And they will continue to wreck your life until their deed is done. Until the ordeal is completed or complete. So you must also be very, very frank to yourself. You must also ask yourself, what am I doing? How am I going to live a decent lifestyle? You see, the issue is not whether we are afraid to die or not, whether something is going to kill us or not. Like we usually talk at home, something must kill a man. I agree with you completely. But I don't want to die in ignominy. I don't want to die shamefully. So why won't I control what I can control? Why should I continue to drink anyhow, uncontrollably, when I know that drinking too much can cause a lot of havoc on my system? Why should I continue to eat anyhow, become a glutton? If I know I can control it, why not? And that is a problem. Diabetes will make you to be hungry even after eating. Ask me why. Because since you're uncontrolled, when food is metabolized in your system, the food that is supposed to go into the cells, the glucose, which is the end product of sugar, which should go into the system, will remain at the peripheral level. In other words, the cells are still complaining to the brain, telling the brain that they are hungry. Yet you are full, but the brain is telling you you're hungry. Any food that passes by, you want to binge on it. You are finished eating swallow, whether gari, whether yam. Somebody who has cooked rice, you want to taste. Somebody who is eating swallow, you want to taste. Somebody eating any sauce, you want, because your tummy is full, you know it's full. But down, deep down, the brain is still reminding you are still hungry. And yet you don't know what you're hungry for. Why? Because the sugar, the glucose, has now gone into the cells. The cells are still starved. The key that should unlock the cells for the sugar, the glucose to go in, which is insulin, is not there. You see why we take medications? You see why we take even exogenous insulin? When it becomes necessary that we must take it. But then when you are controlled, when you eat at the level, moderately at the level you're supposed to eat, at the capacity your body will be able to carry, and then take your medication, the medication you are taking will be able to control the sugar that is produced from the food you have eaten. And there's need for them to move in, to go in. That's why we take this medication, the first line of um, diabetes drugs, which is metformin. Some people call it glucophage. And there's sulfonylureas. That's why we take them. Because they will have the key to unlock the cells to allow the glucose to come in. If you have excess sugar in your peripheral blood, it affects the eyes, it affects the heart, it affects the kidney, it affects the nerves and the arteries and veins, extremities, leading to amputation when they are not when you're not controlled. So that's why we need to actually control what we eat to avoid some of these unnecessary diseases and ailments. Diabetes does a lot of damage. But as we progress, as we talk along, we'll learn more. I'll begin to tell you more about how we should continue to live a moderate life, devoid of excess drink, excess food, and also be compliant with your medication. Very important. Check me out another day. Take care.